The premise was that there were modern computer-based techniques being developed to manipulate voters. And I cover national elections. And if voters are being manipulated, it's my duty to report on it. How in the hell can I do that if I don't understand it? And so I wanted to become the first journalist to understand the sneaky things that these consultants like Poole were doing for candidates. It was a course in practical research, and the feature of it was you learned this system, which was an easy-to-use method of doing statistical problems on an IBM 7090 and 7094 computer. And this was revolutionary at the time. And once I saw what I could do with that, I thought, my God, there's an application for journalists here. And so it became more than finding out what politicians are doing with these tools. This made me feel so big and strong. Even though I only had 3 minutes of computer time for the whole semester, I spent the whole time figuring out how to use those 3 minutes.
How did you arrive at your first application of computing science and social science to journalism? How did you arrive at the first sort of case study, test study?
Sheer dumb luck. I used to read a lot of science fiction, and my favorite was Kurt Vonnegut Jr. And he wrote a novel called The Sirens of Titan, where the hero has fantastic adventures in space. And afterwards he lands back on Earth, and a crowd greets him and says, "What happened to you?" And he says, "I was the victim of a series of accidents, as are we all." And that's the story of the development of precision journalism. I was the victim of a series of accidents. And then I arrived back in the Washington Bureau wondering how in the hell I was going to find some use for this. And I was trying to dream up ideas and having a hard time selling it. And then the phone rang, and it was Derek Daniels, who was my old city editor from Miami, then editor of the Detroit Free Press, saying the Detroit riot is 3 days along now, and our staff is worn out. I need 2 fresh bodies. Send me 2 people. And since I was the one who answered the phone, I was the only one in the bureau, I could have decided who went. So I sent myself. And so that's the one thing I loved about the newspaper business the most. You wake up in the morning, you're never quite sure where you're going to be at the end of the day. And at the end of that day, I was in Detroit, downtown Detroit, riding around with the National Guard, watching the fires burn, listening to the shots in the night, trying to figure out how I was going to make a story out of this. I had in my hand a copy of the Los Angeles Times, which had just published a survey of the Watts Riot. The Watts Riot was 2 years earlier. And I said, this guy's applied social science research methods to discover the causes of the riot. We can do the same thing. It took them 2 years to do it. We're newspaper people. We don't have to be as slow as social scientists. Out of sheer good fortune, another series of coincidences, I was able to pull it off. I was rejected even by the Russell Sage Foundation. They paid for writing the book. And it was a work for hire project. They were the intended publisher. But they sent it out to reviewers from both journalism and social science. And on both sides, the journalists said, this is too much like social science. We can't use it. And the social scientists said, there's too much journalism here. It's no good for us. And that's when I knew I had a winner. Because that's a sign of creativity. If you have something that there's no box to fit into.